Hey, hello. And if you're new here, welcome to my channel. And as you can see from the title, today we're talking about Full Metal Jacket, Stanley Kubrick's Vietnam War film from 1987. Because I've noticed something very odd, sort of a glaring fact about the film that I've never heard anyone else mention, and that is this: that some of the soldiers we meet at our boot camp in the beginning of the film seem to start disappearing. And this happens long before we get to the Vietnam section of the film. So let's see if we can figure out exactly what is going on and why. Now, our film opens at the Marine Boot Camp training facility at Paris Island, and we're meeting the new batch of guys. And of course, after they line up, we meet their drill instructor, Gunnery Sergeant Hartman, a harsh and abusive man. But I want you to notice some of the guys we see lined up here because it will be important later. We even see a few of them get new nicknames, such as Private Snowball, Private Cowboy, who is from Texas, and our main character, Private Joker. Now, on this side of the barracks, there seem to be 20 recruits lined up. I only counted 17 on the other side, though it's possible the camera didn't show the whole line. Apparently, single barracks rooms usually held 10 to 25 guys, but at the height of the Vietnam War, those numbers could definitely be higher. When we start to see our recruits out marching, it does appear to me that there are 37 guys here, unless I'm counting wrong. It looks like 9 lines, 4 deep, and one guy carrying the flag. Also, I'm starting to notice in some of these shots that a few of the guys we saw in our first shots in the barracks don't appear to be here. Have we already started losing soldiers here? I mean, there were a couple at least, very striking looking and quite tall soldiers. We can see them in a couple of different shots here. But when we get to this march, I have to say, I'm not sure these are all the same guys we saw in the first shots. But maybe that's the point being made, that the soldiers are supposed to get into step with each other. But are some of these soldiers actually disappearing with the disappearance of individuality? Now, I noticed something very subtle happening in this scene. It's when everyone is getting ready to go to bed and have to say a prayer to their rifle. It's already a strange scene, but I count 9 rows of beds here, with Joker and Cowboy apparently in the end now. But go back to the first scene here. When we first meet Joker, he's on the same side of the room, I believe, although he's not in the end bunk. But I count 10 sets of beds here in this line. So it seems by the time we get to this scene later, where there are only 9 sets of beds on Joker's side, well, it seems like we have already lost 2 soldiers, though it's a bit unspoken. The scene where everyone gets out of bed to hit Leonard is very darkly lit, almost blue, so it's hard to be sure, but when things get chaotic and the guys start swarming around very quickly, it almost feels like there are more than 30 that come in. Remember, 4 of the guys are holding Leonard down from the sides, with Cowboy up top and Joker to the side, plus Leonard. That makes 7. So there should only be 30 guys that come over to hit him, but it looks like more. Also, it's hard to make out a lot of individual faces in the crowd here. Again, it's like the soldiers are starting to blend into each other a bit. And immediately after this, we get this shot of our recruits doing some training. But notice, there are now only 7 rows, when before there were 9 rows. It's still 4 deep, but with only 7 rows, that adds up to 28, plus the guy holding the flag. That's 29 men. So, although you might not think to notice this, in fact, that means we just lost 8 guys, because before we had 37 and now there are only 29. So it seems we have some disappearing soldiers. Now, this final shot at the boot camp is very interesting for several reasons. You can see all of the guys lined up here, getting their assignments as they're leaving for Vietnam soon. But I've counted the number of guys here, and although Sergeant Hartman is blocking it a bit, it does appear that there are 37 men here. In other words, it seems like we're back to our original number that we started with. But what happened to the 2 soldiers missing here when a set of bunk beds disappeared, as well as the 8 soldiers that disappeared from this exercise when 2 whole lines went missing? Well, I think it's a way of illustrating that when soldiers disappear, they will get replaced. And unfortunately, that's one of the realities of war. Also, look at some of these faces. I honestly can't say if these are all the exact same guys that we saw in our opening shots. Could some of them have been replaced with newer guys? Or are these guys just starting to blend in with each other? Now, later, when Joker gets to Vietnam, he meets back up with his old friend Cowboy, who is part of a group called the Lust Hogs, a colorful crew of characters featuring guys such as Animal Mother. Now, as we follow our guys on a mission, eventually we do lose some of these men, including 8 Ball and also Cowboy, who are both shot and killed, as well as a young sniper. So we can see here again, we have some disappearing soldiers in a way, because they aren't here anymore. And there are quite a few instances of that in the Vietnam section of the film, though I'm mostly concentrating on the boot camp part of the film. So, to sum up, today we talked about the missing or disappearing soldiers of Full Metal Jacket. And I think I proved that there are several scenes, including the instance where 2 of our bunk beds disappear from the earlier shot where there were 10 sets of beds, but here there are only 9. So we have 2 missing soldiers. And again, when we see our guys marching, there are 9 rows of 4 plus the flag bearer. That's 37 men. But later, when we get here, there are only 7 rows of 4, plus a flag bearer. That's 29 men. So again, we've lost 8 guys. Now, you might think these guys were just moved around or on another assignment, but I think it is a subtle way of showing that some of these soldiers will disappear when they get to Vietnam, as indeed we see happen. It's showing the reality that not all of these soldiers will return home. And remember, Stanley Kubrick made 2 other anti war films, being Doctor Strangelove and Paths of Glory. So I think it's very possible that he would put some subtle and not so subtle themes of disappearing soldiers in this film. Well, that's my new video about the possible disappearing soldiers in Full Metal Jacket. I hope you liked it. I'm actually uploading this a few days before Veterans Day here in the US, so I thought it would be appropriate to do a video on this film. I am working on something for next week, and I hope to have that finished soon. And let me say a huge thank you to my awesome comment section. I always like reading what you have to say. I do have an Instagram if you'd like to follow me over there. My name is Shimmering Path over there, and I'll leave a link in the description box below. Also, it would help my channel if you did hit that subscribe button and liked the video. But either way, my name is Shim. Thank you for spending time with me, and have a great day.